Can you hear me okay? Fine. So I promise you I will cover transparency, but some of you may have wondered why when we undertook the first membership consultation in the summer, we trawled so wide. You might question whether we understood the difference between governance, the constitutional issues, and the operational issues, typically course management, course access, etc. Because those could be sorted out by almost any form of governance. Well, of course we got it, but the point was to shed light on how governance interacts with the issues that are important to members. So we did it knowingly. The second point I'd like to make is that Ashridge is a sociable club. Members talk to other members, and we may feel we understand how other members think. But our survey and the conversations that followed it revealed that we don't always understand how others are thinking. We heard some voices that are not often heard in the club, and people who even went as far as to say they felt intimidated about speaking up for fear of being seen to question the Ashridge way, or to be seen in some way as disloyal by questioning the status quo. Yet when we explored the Ashridge way at the club, none of you will be surprised to find that we found as many views on that as we found members. So that sets a backdrop to the issues that we found impinging directly or indirectly on governance. I'm going to say more about equality and gender, but here I just want to make the general point about legal compliance. We would not have been doing our job as a review team if we'd failed to highlight areas of non-compliance with legislation. We may differ in our views about legislation, muttering about political correctness or about too much bureaucratic red tape. But the working group and your committee both believe that we need to be cognizant of the law. Today's loose enforcement of legislation, such as the Equality Act, may suddenly become tightened without warning if the Equality Commission flexes its muscles, as many businesses have found to their cost. Ask yourselves, is it fair to ask the directors of this club on your behalf to face the personal consequences of knowingly operating outside the law? So that's the point about why we felt it important to look at legal issues here. It may surprise you to discover that there is no artisan society at Ashridge. There is, or section I mean, there is an artisan club. And we could find no documentation, it may be there and would welcome people who can point us in the right way. We could find no documentation on how the legal issues of the artisan club are risk managed. Is this club responsible for any claims or offences? Another point. Members and past captains and committee members have all emphasised how great is the contribution made to this club by qualified accountants. On the present committee, Neil's a qualified accountant. But as other roles are lined up for him as a non-accountant, I've had to sign on with the FCA as the named director in order that the club may offer credit to members. But the treasurer role is more important, much more important than just signing. It's about the expert scrutiny that protects the club's financial position. No matter how skilled our own accountant is in the office and the general manager, scrutiny is about saying to them, please don't just tell me about the checks and balances, show me. Strategy, too, depends on the robust impact analysis wherein accountants play their part. Past financial people on the committee tell us they could have offered even more with a longer tenure in role. I'd like to endorse what John has just said about the captain's role. The age of the email poses an enormous added burden on his role, and many people have commented on what a difference it would make if some of these emails could be redirected to a chair or a treasurer, for example. As John has pointed out, some past captains and other long-serving members were puzzled by the emphasis on transparency. Others were not in the least surprised that members want to be able to see more about what's going on behind the scenes and how and why decisions are made. Perhaps, I put it to you, the basis of trust has changed over time. From a situation of, we've elected you, we trust you, we don't want to know, to the modern world, which is more like, we've elected you, and our trust in you is reinforced when we can see what you're doing on our behalf, and we want to engage more meaningfully with you. The contract may be changing. Some clubs now share their committee minutes on the member-only section of their website. Many clubs now have a system where the rolling 5-year strategic plan, not just the financial projections for income and expenditure, is presented for member ratification at AGMs, and members may even be asked to approve subscription rates in advance. Consistency is difficult to achieve when the leader changes every year, as has been pointed out. And the effects of prioritising a future project and then deprioritising and reprioritising are emphasised in the example we gave you about car parks. Don't get stuck on the particular issues. We could have chosen other examples of boreholes, bunker renewal, irrigation, all of the examples that members highlighted in their responses. Just think about the consistent direction for any project. That's the governance issue. Think also about consistent appraisal. Modern employment law and culture gives employees a right to expect consistency. Only if there is an audit trail of reliable measurement against explicit expectations can the underperformer be improved or removed. And the strong performer can have their contributions recognised, rewarded, and the likelihood is that we'll retain them longer. Finally, better definition of roles and responsibilities ensures clarity about that responsibility and accountability. The more professional our approach, the more likely we are to raise standards. So I'm going to move on to gender issues, and this is where I may need my hard hat on, and I don't want to get into a gender debacle like that of David Cameron's "Calm down, dear," his comment in 2011. But to explain to you why we've chosen to point up the gender issues. We've done so that members can think about them. The alternative could have been to just stay stumm. We could leave it to the leaders of the future to address the thorny issues. We rejected that option, partly because it would have felt like introducing change by stealth, but also because it would have robbed you, the members, of the chance to think about the interaction between governance and the issues you care about. As John said, ultimately the governance framework should deliver you a system that deals with contentious issues both fairly and moderately. Thus, it is not about political correctness. It is about fairness and legal compliance. It is not about mindless equality. It is about removing barriers to equitable enjoyment of the club by all members. So, the first point, combined competitions. Let me say clearly, this is not the same as mixed competitions. Blair Smoor, a barrister specialising in discrimination law, gave counsel to golf clubs as follows. Many clubs, and I quote, "Many clubs have rules which circumscribe the times at which men and women play. Such rules may well contravene the legislation, as there should be equal access to the course at all times. A rule, for example, that women cannot play on Sunday mornings is likely to be unlawful. The Act does not prevent single-sex competitions, but that is a different matter from the issue whether the course is generally available to men and women on an equal basis. So take heart. It's not beyond the wit of man to devise systems that offer fair and equitable weekend access for men's competitions and ladies' competitions rather than limiting access at premium times just to men. May I remind you that one of this club's best lady golfers was excluded from playing in a midweek club championship by dint of working full-time. I'm happy to report that the combined efforts of the Ladies' Committee and the Club Committee have sorted this issue. Other clubs report that offering the courtesy of tea times reserved for seniors to lady seniors as well as to men has been something they've been able to take in their stride, and there is the potential to improve course access. Second point, equal numbers of male and female members. That's misleading. We don't need to have equal numbers. We just need to avoid a cap limit on any gender. It's lawful to have a floor rather than a ceiling if we need to do so to retain the viability for competitions. Gender-based committees. In the briefing paper, this read no ladies committee, which was misleading, and I apologise for that. The point is that if you continue to have a ladies committee as at present, you may need to have a men's committee, or at least to think about one, to cover the situations when a lady is club captain. And we meant to flag up that some have asked us obvious questions. Why do we need so many sections? Why do we need to separate on gender lines? Why can't we just have one playing committee where people sit down together to discuss the handicaps and competitions for men and ladies of any age and of those over 60 years? Just questions. Now that the club undertakes more of the organisational and admin functions, competitions are easier to run, and there's no need for members of either gender to attend to the provision of toiletries. This is not to preclude any committees or groups which people wish to convene to enhance the social life of the club. So clearly there can still be ladies' committees. The role needs to be determined at some stage. Equal handicap requirements is not a requirement. There's no need for that under equality legislation. It might make sense to have a single selection process for new members. At present, we have ladies interviewing male members, but we do not currently often have the situation where men are interviewing lady members. But we could have a common process and a combined waiting list, because they're logical ways of helping to ensure that we're not only acting equitably, but that we're seen to do so. Finally, a female club captain. And much of the work already done on governance at Ashridge in 2002 has paved the way for a female captain to be elected. And doubtless it will happen. But we need to show that there are no obstacles in the way, so that needs another bit of thinking. Those are some of the issues we've thought about, but there are many more. So please feel free to comment and to ask some questions. Dan.
Thank you, Ed, very much. I usually get under the wrong place, so if I squeak, you'll forgive me. Please also forgive me if I'm a little disjointed, because things haven't been too easy recently. Ed, you've put a hell of a lot of work into this, I'm sure, but to many of us, the issues of gender and equality are, to some extent, matters of governance, as you have said. But I believe that in the vast majority of cases, they are matters of management afterwards. Yeah. And that is what we should be concentrating on in thinking about. That's the first point. The second point is if I can get to it and remember what I'm going to say. Gender, let's take gender. You said, you talked about reserved tea times for senior members. You may not be aware, we do not have any reserved tea times except for 5 or 6 major competitions. We do not have reserved tea times for our medals. We all turn up, we draw for partners in the traditional Ashridge way, and somehow or other, the captain of the day has to get up to 55 people off the tees that are available, which might be the 10th, the 13th, the 15th, can never be the 1st, and so on. And frankly, if there's been any age discrimination, it has been against the seniors' unofficial section. That aside, that's just a point of irony as far as I'm concerned, that we should perhaps not be able to have formal tea times. I don't believe we should have any for roll-ups. I do not believe there should be any tea times for roll-ups, because that is informal golf in the true Ashridge tradition. But you will know that I've had problems this year as seniors captain with the playing conditions, the management of the diary, and something has simply got to be done about it. I know it's not a matter of governance, it's a matter of management. I have been concerned about it all the time, and even today, tomorrow, if you look at the paper diary downstairs and on the electronic diary, correctly states there is 8:45 to 9:15 first tee ladies roll up, a reserved tea time. 11:15 for 11:30 seniors roll up, no teas, no tea time. And then Mr. Armstrong, 15, a guest or a member bringing a 10th tee reserved 8:30 to 9:15. However, on the competitions website, there is a Ladies Academy 6-hole turkey trot. Tee reservation 12:30 to 12:54. No tee noticed at all. I presume it's the 13th. And on Thursday, the ladies are having their 9-hole foursomes competition, turkey trot competition. And they're starting on both tees. It's not in the diary as starting off both tees, it's in the diary as starting at 8:30, or it's in the competitions thing at 9:18 off both tees. Basically the course is closed. And these sorts of problems we've got to get over. But so far as the actual governance is concerned, of course, as a committee, you've got to look at matters of gender and things, but it is entirely a matter of management to get it right. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dan. And let me say, first of all, I agree with you wholeheartedly about it being a matter of management. The point we were making, this is so important that it is important that you have faith in a system of governance that can and will address the important management issues for members. The second point I'd make is that it is a really important and difficult issue that is dear to the hearts of Ashridge. The seniors section demographically is increasing, and under your own and previous captaincies, it's won tremendous respect for its ability to involve people, the roll-up, the sorting out of by cards of who plays, the social atmosphere. More and more people want to play, and that's fantastic and has to be encouraged. because of that, because it is so successful, we care deeply about it. And because we care deeply about something, we feel threatened about it. And I wanted to mention the elephant in the room because there's threat. Because the law, the equality law, quite clearly, and the government guidance on it says absolutely specifically, using the example, that where there is a section delineated by age, it is unlawful to then delineate on the basis of any other protected characteristic. So somehow or other, clubs just have to find ways that we can have our treasured sections in ways that do not debar people by reason of gender from playing senior golf.
Well, why don't you keep them informal?
Absolutely.
There's been nothing to stop senior ladies, if they want to, setting up their own section. But it seems they don't want to do so. But
Sure.
the lady captains quite rightly made available about 4 slots in the mornings where they controversially play in 3 balls as opposed to the ladies' normal 2 balls.
I think we're saying the same thing, that there are solutions around it. We needn't be frightened about the fact that there are legal requirements. What we want to do is carry on encouraging, developing, looking at what are the jewels in our system, which include seniors golf and ladies golf. But that is an implication for governance in the sense of making sure that that can happen. And when we trust a governance system, we've got to make sure it can deal with those issues.
Surely that goes without saying. That's the whole principle of governance.
Sure, but how many? Exactly, governance. I mean, at the end of the day, governance is there to exist quietly and smoothly and let people get on with their golf. But we wouldn't be having today if there weren't some thorny issues on the way in terms of making it happen.
I feel we're wasting our time on this part. I thought we were here to discuss strategy. We're not.
Fine.
We're here to discuss structure. We're not discussing it. That's what we're here for.
Okay.
Roger, just could you say that again? You thought we were here to
I
discuss...
thought we were here to discuss the structure of possible governance. We
Yep.
don't seem to be doing that. That's the reason I've come.
Okay, well, at this particular section, we are discussing wider issues. I think the rest of it is all about structure. At least I hope it is. It's supposed to be.
Other questions?
I think Ed is just
I understand what he says. It's very
airing
good
some
stuff.
things
It
that
needs
have
to be
cropped
looked at,
up.
But I don't think this is the forum for it, personally.
Well,
Are there other points on the wider issues or that anybody would like to raise or any?
if not, let's move on to the...
Okay, that's fine.